Welcome to the Political Power Hour with your host, former congressional candidate, retired federal agent, and three-time author, Michael Vilardi, highlighting today's political hot topics with the most interesting political candidates in the 2022 election. The most hard-hitting political commentary on the air today. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Political Power Hour with Michael Vilardi. We have a great show for you tonight. It's the night before the primary election. It's August 22nd. We have two congressional candidates and a state house rep. We're going to have Melissa Martz. We're going to have Dan Franzese. We're going to have Keith Feit. We're going to start the show with Melissa, who's running in CD21. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Thank you very much for having me. Off the top, I just need to say a sincere thank you for having me. My campaign has experienced so much censorship that I'm really grateful when I'm given the opportunity to share my platform with the people. So thank you.
Well, Melissa, you know, I've known you a while, and you're a lawyer. You're a fighter. You have a very tough constitution. I mean, you're very principled. And we want you to tell our viewers more about you and about your campaign, who you're running against, why you're running, and let's get the message, hit the message hard as you like. We're not going to censor you. We're going to let you run wild.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, so a little bit about me. As you mentioned, I am an attorney. I sued Palm Beach County against their unconstitutional mandate going on almost 2 years ago now when it first came down, and that was the beginning of my journey to running. I'm a homeschooling mother. I have a small nonprofit for single mothers because at a difficult time in my life I was one. And I ultimately decided to run because I saw and experienced for myself the government tyranny, not only at a local level, but what was coming down from our federal government. Some people may or may not be aware that the U.S. Department of Education, which is an unconstitutional federal body, had a program called the SAFE program during all of the COVID craziness, where they were incentivizing our Florida schools to have vaccination on site for children, to mask children, and a whole laundry list of things that if our schools would do, if our school boards would concede, they were getting money directly from the federal government, superseding parents' rights, our governor's executive orders, and our children, really. So that's just one example of the extreme government overreach that we have coming from the federal government, and one of the things that I want to push back on. So on my website, I have a long list of things that I would like to accomplish if elected, but the thesis of what I want to do is to keep my oath to the Constitution if elected and protect our individual liberties. We're at a time in history where we can't afford to be ignorant of what's in our founding documents, of what's in our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence. We can't afford to keep electing in representatives who do not keep their oath to the Constitution, no matter how well protected or represented they are by our RECs or our Republican establishments or media. We must stand in our sovereignty in this time and start doing our own due diligence to elect in people that stand behind statements like "give me liberty" or "give me death," that are not in it to win it for themselves or for big money, but are really in it to serve the people. So as consolidated as I could be, that is my platform. Protect our constitutional rights, limited government, and really, the other thing that I talk about a lot is putting an end to child sex trafficking at our border. That's where I was focused as an attorney before I ever decided to run, and I plan to do what I can to protect our border and to protect the children that are being trafficked both ways across our border.
All right, so let me just comment on some of the things you said.
Yes.
With the vaccinations, pretty much the federal government mandated vaccines. I know somebody who worked for a hospital. They did not get the vaccine. They got fired. I know people at the IRS where I used to work, which they were forced to take the vaccine. And our beloved leader, President Biden, got 2 vaccinations, 2 booster shots, and then got COVID twice. So how is this vaccine even remotely effective if people are getting sick after they get the vaccine, catching COVID anyway, but yet they're mandating it? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts as a person and as somebody that wants to represent the people is that it was all unconstitutional, but it was worse than unconstitutional because we didn't have informed consent. So mandates aren't laws, and even if it had gone through the legislative process, it still would have been an unconstitutional law. There's nowhere in our founding documents, nowhere in the Constitution does it delegate to the federal government the power over our medical care. So it's just wholly unconstitutional. Anyone that's read the Constitution would be able to see that. That's why I myself was so flabbergasted at how everyone just kind of conceded to all of these mandates. But beyond that, you're asking how is it that this vaccine, they've been so effective in getting people to take it, which, I believe in our Constitution and liberty and freedom of choice. So if people want to choose to be vaccinated, good for them. They should have that choice all day long. And if they don't, they should also have that choice. However, choice is taken away when we don't have informed consent. And that is egregious, and that deserves penalty of the highest form. So when we look to history at the Nuremberg trials, where you had doctors experimenting without informed consent on people, we have the same thing happening today. These were experimental. Now, they're not even vaccines. They changed the definition of vaccine. The mRNA vaccine was an experimental medical modality, and people had not been fully informed. And so they're making these decisions based off of partial information, and people are being harmed from it. That information is starting to come out now. So it's really egregious. And again, that's why we need people representing us that are willing to push back on the government overreach, but also demand investigation and demand just penalty for those that either knowingly and willingly or were willfully blind in facilitating this really egregious push of medical experimentation on the American people and our children.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of people who have actually had issues from getting the vaccine. I personally know
Yes.
2 people that died shortly, one after getting the second Pfizer shot and the second person after getting the booster shot. And one of the hazards of taking the shot is, and you see those commercials where they go through everything that could possibly happen to you, is sudden death. That's one of the side effects of the shot. I mean, that's mind-blowing.
Well, we see in Canada, I think the leading cause of death now is unknown in one of the cities in Canada. So it's it's very interesting. If hopefully people are paying attention, because at the end of the day, if you're an American, if you believe in the principles that our country is founded on, we believe in personal responsibility. We believe in the individual and sovereignty. So, I'm hoping that people are starting to wake up to stand in that sovereignty, to do their own research. I felt very blessed during this time where we had a lot of misinformation, medical misinformation pushed on us. My undergrad is biology. I was reading medical studies for fun in undergrad. I come from a medical family. When they were pushing the mask mandates, the first thing I did was read the 20 years of well-established medical studies and data on the efficacy and harmfulness of mask wearing. And your average person may not have felt competent to read those studies, or maybe would have just trusted the news instead of seeking them out. I'm hoping after 2 years of this tyrannical push that people are starting to go and seek the information for themselves. But one thing that we definitely have control over, we have voting day tomorrow. So that's something that is immediately within our power to start changing the new guard. We need the new guard. Our Declaration of Independence talks about when we have an unjust, tyrannical government, it's our responsibility. In fact, it's called our duty in our Declaration of Independence to have a change of guard and bring in the new guard. And that's not just for the position I'm running for, but it's school board, commission, state and federal representatives. We need a turnover in a major way.
No, we do. People, you need to get out and vote. Primaries are especially important in an off-year election like this year. Usually the turnout's very light. But, it can make the difference who's going to be representing you, and that's critical. So very important that you go out and vote tomorrow, and support candidates that are going to support the Constitution, like Melissa here. I mean, you're a strong candidate. You're very opinionated about standing up for what's right and what's right on the Constitution.
Yeah.
And I know your hearts, you mentioned the child sex trafficking. So when we take a look at the border, how would you solve the border issue?
Well, I think obviously securing the border is top priority. A lot of what was implemented under the past administration should be brought back. I know some of that has started to be brought back. I'm interested in seeing strict penalty for anyone that is not just actually abusing the children, but that is facilitating the abuse of children across our borders. So we know from reporting with Project Veritas that our government has, there was a whistleblower that came to Project Veritas within our government at the border, stating that our government has had a role and has had a knowing role in facilitating child sex trafficking across our border. I would like to see the highest penalties for anyone involved. We have a DOJ that has turned the other way regarding the Hunter Biden laptop, and it's alleged that there's sexual abuse of children on that laptop. Well, we should know. At the least, we should have an answer one way or the other, and our DOJ has looked the other way. So I don't care if you're a government official, I don't care who you are, if you have a part in the sexual abuse of children, you should be held to the highest penalty. That is the kind of legislation I would be looking to implement when I get in. And I have to mention, we've got one day, tomorrow's voting day.
Right.
And I have been as tight-lipped as I could be in giving the people the opportunity to vet their candidates. I would say with one day left, for those that care about how we treat our children, for those that care that we are not promoting pedophilia in our country, we have a sitting congressman, the gentleman I am aiming to unseat, who has made publicly documented comments about having sex with children. We have more than a whiff of pedophilia in our government. To me, we need a zero tolerance policy. So if that matters to people, these are things to consider when we're vetting candidates. How do they treat children? How do they talk about children? Would you feel comfortable leaving your child with somebody that jokes about having sex with children? And if not, maybe these aren't the people that should be making policy decisions about protecting our kids at the border.
And what is the new Congressional District 21 that you're running in? Where does it go from where to where?
So I'm running in what is now called District 21, which is all of Martin County, all of St. Lucie County, and the north part of Palm Beach County, so the north half of Palm Beach.
Okay, and that's a primarily Republican district, is that correct?
They call it a purple district, but
Okay.
I would say I think it is more Republican, and I have to say, too, from the political climate over the last couple of years, the majority of the people that I talk to that are third party, they tend to lean conservative, they tend to lean Republican. So yes, that's my feeling, is that it's mostly a red district, which is just to say people care about their constitutional rights, they care about their families, they have conservative values.
Right. So if you could win the primary, you would have a good chance of winning the seat.
Absolutely. I have no doubt that if we win the primary, I will win the general. So this is an argument that's been made to me a lot since I decided to run by people that are very politically minded and not necessarily liberty minded. Within the Republican establishment and within the media and even within the truther community, people have very much protected the incumbent because he has an R next to his name. I believe the technical term is rhino. So, just because you have an R next to your name, but you're voting against the people, breaking your oath and voting, like a D does not make you an R. So, but people have wanted to protect this incumbent because they feel like somebody else who's not as well known won't have a chance in the general. And I strongly disagree. I think the American people are smart. I think if only we could get the message out, it would be really clear that there's a better choice in representation, and we absolutely would have no problem winning the general if we win the primary.
So what's your stances on the new tax bill that got passed and the Second Amendment?
Well, per my platform and being a conservative, obviously I would never vote to increase taxes. But to me, the most egregious thing about that bill is that they are employing or aiming to employ 87,000 IRS agents that they want to arm, and there's footage of them arming and training people with firearms. Why does the IRS need firearms? What are they going to be doing with this? Why are they being trained 87,000? And then you find out there's a stat where the majority of people that they go after make less than $28,000 a year. This is not freedom. This is not America. This is disgusting. It should have us forming our militias and standing guard if we don't have a good 2022 election, because that to me was the most egregious thing. And I have not read the bill, and I understand it's very voluminous. This is another problem we have in Congress. But what I know of it, that is the most egregious thing that I know of it. And I hope that people are paying attention again. This is not freedom. This is not liberty. And it is our responsibility, our duty to tomorrow to go out and to vote and to take our government back.
Well, I was one of those those agents with the gun with the IRS. But
if only they could all be like you, Mike.
Right, exactly. But just to clarify a little bit, not all 87,000 are supposed to be in that role. It's a small number of them. The position was advertised before they actually passed the bill.
Oh, nice.
Okay, that's
nice.
what yes, because they had other money for it.
Nice.
Okay, and what happens is the criminal division of the IRS is used to do money laundering on drug cases, organized crime cases. A lot of times we'll have agents detailed to certain drug task force for that purpose. But it's kind of crazy to put that out there that you need to shoot somebody in order to get the job. That's ridiculous. They do have good training, which is why they have so much ammo. They train more than, firearms training is more so than a police agency would be, because think about this. If you're an IRS criminal investigator and you shoot somebody, what kind of publicity is that going to bring to the IRS? It's going to topple it. People are going to go, oh my God, that's crazy. You can't have IRS agents with
You
guns.
would hope, but did you see the ATF is knocking on doors as well? And that, I shared that on social media, and some people wouldn't even believe that it was true. So, you would like to think that a story like that would shock the conscience of the American people, but we see the ATF going around knocking on doors with their list of law-abiding citizens and their legally obtained firearms, asking, please show us your firearms. We're taking inventory of your firearms.
Yeah,
so,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so I would hope that's true. But the point is, we should be paying attention.
Right.
Certainly, we shouldn't be voting to be, giving any more of our money to expand our governments and giving them any more firearms than they already have.
I
understand you say it was already allocated.
Right.
But the other point I'll make, because I've been very clear also on my stance on the Second Amendment, because it's a constitutional right, and at the federal level, there should be no law that would infringe on our Second Amendment right. Again, we have, for people that care about our Constitution and preserving our way of life, we have the sitting congressman who has written an opinion piece in the New York Times stating that none of us should own an AR-15. And we just had a bill pass the House that wouldn't just take away the AR-15, but also other firearms from the American people. So again, I hope people are paying attention, that we're getting out to vote tomorrow and doing our due diligence to vet our candidates to see the America that we want to see.
Now, in the last minute, tell people where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, and close out with your home run message.
Yes, okay, well, very simple, melissamartz.com, MELISSAMARTZ.com, and I respond to every email I get, every inquiry that I get. My closing message is, don't give up, don't lose hope. Very important, because I say the war is a psychological war as well. If we wake up in the morning and we're already defeated, then the powers that be have won. But we have a strong foundation in this country. It's built on inalienable rights that have been given to us by our Creator, and government cannot take them away. So I have strong hope for victory for this 2022 election. No matter what happens, the people will be victorious.
Well, Melissa, you're a true American patriot. We wish you the best tomorrow.
Thank you.
And all we could say is let people know who you are and vote for you, because I know your heart, I know your character, I've known you a while, and you are a true conservative, and you're very principled. And I know that you would fight for your constituents. Yes. And that's probably what we need in Washington now more than anything else, is someone who's going to be principled, stand up for what they believe in, and not waver. Amen. And I know you're somebody who can't be bought, who can't be bullied, who is going to stand in your principle. And that's what we need. That's what we need in Congress. So I encourage you, if you happen to be up in Melissa's area, please vote for her and support her. She will do an excellent job for you. I know her. She has tremendous character, and that's what we need, is we need character.
Amen.
We need character and people who are unwilling to bend and stand up to the liberal left, and you would do that.
Yes, amen.
You would do that. So right now we're going to have to cut to a commercial break, and we'll be back with Keith Feit and Dan Franzese. Thank you.
High costs caused by Lois Frankel's reckless policies. Republican Dan Franzese is clearly your best choice for Congress. Dan is a successful businessman who understands finance and economics. He's not a politician. Dan grew up blue collar and knows how tough inflation is on working families. Dan Franzese will go to Washington and fight the liberals who are killing us with inflation. Dan Franzese for Congress.
I'm Dan Franzese, and I approve this message.
Text alert! Text alert!
I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Vilardi on the phone, and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Vilardi, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com or call us today.
You've been watching the Political Power Hour with Mike Vilardi. For more information, email us at mikevilardi@gmail.com. That's Vilardi with one L. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Political Power Hour. I have Keith Feit on. Keith, welcome back to the show. You were on last week. Tell us about who you're running against, what position you're running for, and why people should vote for you.
Thanks a lot, Mike. It's always great to be on and talk politics with you. I am running for, well, actually, before we get to that, I just want to put a plug in here for tomorrow's election. We talk about the primaries, but it's also the school board's general election, and it's that to me is the most important election, so far in my lifetime, because right now we're losing the war for the future in our schools. And so please make sure everybody, if you haven't voted early, get out there and vote for school board as well as your primary candidates. So I'm running for state representative in District 90, which is eastern Boynton Beach and Delray Beach, east of Military Trail to the water. And I'm running because I see an incumbent by the name of Joe Casello, Democrat. I don't have a primary, by the way. I'm in the general election November 8th against Joe Casello, just me versus him. And I see an incumbent who votes against the people. And if you look straight down the line, he's voted against Governor DeSantis. He's voted against the values that have been expressed to me as I campaign door to door. And I did not want him to have an easy, cakewalk into a third term. He's been there 2 terms. I'm not exactly sure what he's done for the people. And so I think it's very important to get another constitutional conservative in Tallahassee.
I think you're right. That's what we need to do. We definitely need to do that. Now, you were also in the congressional race for a while, and then you decided to run for the State House, and you're backing my next guest, Dan Franzese, will be on with us shortly. And that's going to be a very hotly contested race in this district because for the first time in years, I think Lois Frankel, who's been in office for 10 years, is very vulnerable. I mean, inflation is ridiculous. I literally got priced out of my house.
Right.
I have to move 2.5 hours away to buy a house because Palm Beach County rents and prices have absolutely soared. And this is all the direct result of Joe Biden being our president.
Absolutely.
From the minute he got in office, he had a war on fossil fuel. He stopped the drilling. He absolutely did everything possible to make sure that prices would rise, and they did. We went from $1.69 gas to $5.69 gas at one point. Now it's retreating a little. Why? Because they realize they can't win an election when people can't afford, have to choose between gas and food. Okay, and he wants to take responsibility for gas coming down, but it not going up, and that doesn't work. And so we've seen inflation like we haven't seen it since Jimmy Carter was president.
Right.
And when Jimmy Carter was president, the Democrats took quite a beating. I mean, Ronald Reagan won 2 elections very solidly, won I think every state but one. In the second one, in every state but 2 or 3 against Carter. So I think we're going to see something similar here. So I just want to say that I think Dan has the best chance of beating Frankel. He absolutely has the character, the integrity, the money, which is so important to get his message out. And I'm glad that you're backing him too and that you got behind him because I think that's important. It's the day before the elections. People need to make a choice. And we want to go with somebody that has the best chance to win and flip that seat. Because if we don't take Congress back, it's over. It's absolutely over for the American people. Because when you pass a bill to hire 87,000 new IRS agents, who do you think they're going to go after?
They're going after the people.
They're going after the people. And I'm going to tell you exactly what they're going to do because I work for them. They're going to start going after certain segments. They're going to go after real estate agents. They're going to hit them on their car miles. They're going to look at all their expenses. They're going to go after waitresses, bartenders, anybody that takes in cash. They're going to look to hit and hit hard. And they sell it by saying, we're only going after those who make $400,000. What do you think the IRS agents are going to do? Put their feet up on their desk? Once they run through those few people who make up 2 or 3% of people filing tax returns? No, they're going to expand and go after everybody. any place they can get money, because that's the point of paying their salaries, is to bring in $10 for every dollar you pay them, or $100. And that's the problem here, is America's not going to be America when you have your own personal IRS agent that's going to come and take your money from you.
Absolutely not. Now, one thing that you mentioned is about, relating this election to the 1970s and into the 1980s. And it very well could be, but the thing that we have to make sure is that Republicans get out to vote.
Yes.
That Republicans get out and support conservative candidates like Dan in the District 22 race. Because we're getting swamped in terms of fundraising by the Democrats.
Yes.
And I've seen a lot of voters who haven't seemed very interested, and I can't understand that. Like, I don't know how, with what's going on, you can't be interested. But the only way that we're going to have this red wave, and the only way that we're going to take back Congress and turn our country around and return it to the republic that the founding fathers given us, is for the average Republican to get involved. We do have a great opportunity here, and we don't want to squander that, because, like you said, if we do not take back Congress, we won't recognize the America that we have when the presidential election comes in 2024.
Right, exactly. And we're seeing things like the search warrant on Donald Trump's home that we've never seen before. It seems like it almost seems to me like it's an act of desperation. There was no charge. I mean, when I did search warrants, when I was a federal agent, it was almost all on drug dealers. We had a criminal charge. This is record documents. I mean, it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to do a search warrant on somebody for record documents. It could have been handled by a subpoena. Trump agreed to help them and give them whatever they wanted. But instead, they went in there, and they didn't just go in there like a normal search warrant. Normal search warrant, what you do is you send the warrant to the field office where the person lives, which would be down here in Palm Beach County. That's not what they did. They bring in a special group of agents from Washington, which is outside of protocol. And they use a judge who's known to hate Donald Trump. He should have recused himself. Never should have been involved in it. And then it's supposed to be the least intrusive method. Well, the least intrusive method for getting records is a subpoena. They didn't use a subpoena. They jumped right to the search warrant. It seems to me like they're looking for something to charge them with. And when you do a search warrant, it's very specific. You're supposed to only look for X amount of items. And if it's not related, That's not what happened here.
Well, we know that the only reason they performed this raid and having the January 6th committee is because they want to find a way to keep Trump from running again in 2024.
Right.
But I think what we see going on, and I call it our second war for independence. And I think that the government that we have today is even more tyrannical than the one the founding fathers faced. And one of the reasons I stepped out of the congressional race, one was because there were good candidates I can support, like Dan.
Right.
And the other was because there was nobody running against Joe Casello. And we have to have fighters on the home front in states, because we're losing the war for our future in California and New York and Illinois and all these liberal strongholds.
Right.
So we need here in the free state of Florida to make sure we stay free.
You're right. I mean, look, New York and California, very unique. I had a friend of mine who was a federal agent like myself. He went to vote 2020. He shows up, and he noticed his father voted before him, because he's a junior, right? And he says, that's not my father's signature. Guy says, don't worry about it. What do you mean, don't worry about it? My father's been dead for 5 years.
Well, we know the Democrats usually do win the dead vote.
And he was a registered Democrat. So right. Okay. Now, in California, they had a recall election, right? Couple goes to vote. The recall election, they were told, you already voted. So, again, the fix was in. If we don't have honest elections, we're Venezuela.
Right,
and
absolutely.
I think a lot of people have lost faith in our election process between the machines and the fact that all these mail-in ballots are just ripe with fraud. I mean, statistically, 242,000 ballots came in Philadelphia, all for Joe Biden, not one for Trump. Statistically, that's impossible.
Absolutely.
When you have a 50-50 election, how can you have such a great number, all mail, and there was no down ballot? And the Republicans won 14 House seats. Think about that. They won 14 House seats, and Joe Biden had more votes than any other president ever. So there was no down ballot carryover. Instead, the Democrats ended up losing more House seats. If they would have lost another 3, the House would have flipped.
Well, you said we're going to start looking like Venezuela if we don't have free and fair elections. And I think in Florida we do a better job than they've done in other states.
I agree.
But there's still some things we need to do better. But we already are looking like Venezuela. When you look at the fact that political opposition, the home of political opposition, the leader of the political opposition is being raided.
Yes.
You know, when you look at the fact that our free speech is being censored, you look at the fact that they're coming after our guns. These are all actions of a tyrannical government, of a Venezuela, Cuban, Russian, Chinese style Marxist government, and even in our schools. And this is one of the reasons I'm running. I'm running because I do have a 12-year-old son, and I see what's happening in our schools. And they're flat out, pushing a Marxist critical race theory. Yep. And they could say that they're not. They could say, oh, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But, when we talk about equity, they're talking about, critical race theory. They're talking about favoring one race of people over another. And there's so many examples lately of what we've seen in the name of bias and equity in New York, canceling honors and AP programs because they were too white and Asian. In California, talking about instructing teachers to teach their students of color differently than their white students, to grade them more leniently, to not have them do their homework, to not worry about their poor behavior or missing classes, and in Pennsylvania, they now say that 3-year-olds, the Board of Education has decided that 3-year-olds are mature enough to determine that they're transgender.
Wow.
And it goes on and on. In Oregon, they've gotten rid of reading and math requirements for graduation. All this in the name of bias and equity. And why? Why? How is it helping students of color to dumb down education? How is it helping students of color to give them preference over white and Asian students, lowering the standards you're expecting from them? Equity doesn't help anyone. We should have equality of educational opportunity for all our students, but there shouldn't be a push for equity. We can't determine final outcomes. And if we want to have equal final outcomes, then we're rigging the game against one race of kids.
Right.
And that's not okay.
No, it's not. We want equal opportunity for everybody. That's
Absolutely.
fine. But not everybody's equal. You're going to have your street sweeper, and you're going to have your lawn maintenance guy. You're going to have your auto salesman. You're going to have your doctors, your lawyers, your accountants, all different. Different intellects, different abilities, different biases, different. And that's okay. And that's okay. You need equal opportunity, though. Give everyone the same shot. That's what the school system's really about.
Well, and that's why I promote universal school choice. Because when we think about it, the wealthy parents, they can send their kid anywhere. They can decide that this government school is failing my child, so we're going to go to this private school. But a majority of parents can't do that. I know I couldn't afford to send my son to one of those fancy private schools. And so, unless I work there. But so it's important to give students in those situations the same opportunities that wealthy kids get. Zip code, parents' income, parents' jobs, race, none of that should have anything to do with an advantage in terms of educational opportunity. So, I say forget about this government school system, which is regularly failing students. let those schools be in an education marketplace with charter schools and private schools and religious schools, and let portability be funding be portable. Let the parents take the money that is allotted for their kids and use it at the schools they want. Let's fund students, not systems. And decentralize authority. Let principals run their schools, because these districts are too big. And you can't tell me that the students in Pahokee have the same needs as the students in Boca Raton.
Right.
So I think we need to decentralize authority in there. And we need to educate, not indoctrinate.
And you're a PhD. You wrote 9 books. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I have.
So you have a lot of experience when it comes to the education of our children.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been teaching for 25 years. I do have a PhD in educational leadership, and I've done a lot of research in the area. And our teacher preparation programs are so leftist. You know, the professors are leftist,
Right.
the reading materials are leftist, Marxist, you know, and so what we're getting teachers that are coming out of these programs and beginning their careers as activists rather than true educators. Now, most teachers that I know, that I've seen, are great educators. They really care about doing the right job. So this is not about teachers as much as it is the preparation of teachers, the programs that are giving us these teachers, woke administrators and woke officials from, as Melissa said, an unconstitutional Department of Education, which should be abolished in Washington.
Right. Okay, we got a minute left. Tell the people, hit your home run message, where they can get in touch with you, what can they do to support you, and why they should vote for you.
Well, it's me versus Joe Casella, the Democrat incumbent, okay? I'm the freedom candidate. I believe in individual liberty over government control. I believe in health freedom. I believe in equal educational opportunity. I believe in pro-growth economic policies. I believe in empowering people, whereas Joe Casella has voted regularly in favor of government authority, in favor of government control, against parents, and against the empowerment of the little people. I'm the We the People candidate. My web address is feit2022.org, FEIT2022.org. And you can see everything on there. Please go there. If you want to become part of the team, we'd love to have you. You know, make a donation, because this is it. This is our second war for independence. And we need whether you're in my district or not, we need as many constitutional conservatives in Tallahassee as we can get.
Yeah, I think it's important we win the state house races. We got to keep the Florida legislator. It's critical. Keith is a guy who's a constitutionalist, who's brilliant when it comes to his books and his writings, and knows the Constitution, you know, just better than anybody that's in this race. Definitely.
Oh, can I say one more thing?
Of course you can.
On September 21st, we are having a fundraiser
Yes.
at Fiorella Restaurant in Lake Worth. You can see it on our website. It's on the scroll down to the bottom of our homepage. You can get tickets there, make a donation, and it's a matching dollar for dollar fundraiser where the party is going to match the donations we raise. So we really could use support, people coming out to our event, making donations. It would make a huge difference in us being able to get our message out and start fighting for the people, for your rights, and for our children's futures in Tallahassee.
Yeah, and the food is excellent. You're going to get a full course meal, everything from soft drink, salad, main course, dessert, coffee. It's a phenomenal place, phenomenal food, and we encourage you to attend. We certainly do.
Thanks again, Mike.
that'll be
Appreciate
great.
it.
No, listen, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Good to see you again. And now we're going to go to a commercial break, and we'll be back with Dan Franzese, who'll be running for CD22, the new congressional district here in Florida. So thank you for being on the show. And is there anything else you want to say about the website or people?
No, I just want to stress that, you know, everybody has to get out to the polls tomorrow. If they haven't already voted, vote for your favorite candidates. When you listen to Dan Franzese, you're going to see why he's the perfect person to take down Lois Frankel, you know, and vote for that school board. And when it comes to November 8th, then remember about me. I'll fight for you. We know what the liberals are doing, and you can fight back with Feit.
Yeah, it is so key that we win these congressional races here in Florida, because Florida, with the redistricting, we picked up additional seats. We need people that are going to be able to unseat entrenched Democrats, and we believe Dan is the right guy to do that.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Keith, for being on the show. It was a pleasure. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot again, Mike.
You're welcome.
Text alert! Text alert!
I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Vilardi on the phone and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Vilardi, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com or call us today.
If your family is suffering from inflation and high costs caused by Lois Frankel's reckless policies, Republican Dan Franzese is clearly your best choice for Congress. Dan is a successful businessman who understands finance and economics. He's not a politician. Dan grew up blue collar and knows how tough inflation is on working families. Dan Franzese will go to Washington and fight the liberals who are killing us with inflation. Dan Franzese for Congress.
I'm Dan Franzese, and I approve this message.
You've been watching the Political Power Hour with Mike Vilardi. For more information, email us at mikevilardi@gmail.com. That's Vilardi with one L. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Political Power Hour. We got Dan Franzese here, who's running for Congress on CD22. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike.
It's always a
Glad to
pleasure
be back.
have you. It's glad to have you back. You are in a contested primary. You got 5 people there. You know, I've been behind you. Think you're the best guy for the job. I think you're the one with the money, with the ability, with the character, with the integrity to unseat Lois Frankel. So tell us about your campaign. Tell us about you. Let people know why they have to go and vote for Dan Franzese tomorrow.
Well, again, thanks again for having me on your show. I appreciate your support literally from day one, Mike. It's been a real shot in the arm, of course, all throughout the process. It's been a long campaign. I've been working on this for a year and a half. And literally, we've done everything. We've done TV, radio, internet, phone calls, texting, knocking on doors, waving signs, you name it. But the thing that I've enjoyed the most, actually, has been knocking on doors. I've now personally knocked on almost 4,000 doors in the district, and I've really gotten to know the people of the district. I've had thousands of conversations. You know, you could do a poll, you can read a book, you can do whatever, but the best way to learn what the people are thinking is to go out and see them and talk to them.
You're right.
And it's been a very consistent message. People are absolutely unhappy with this government. People always say, when I ask them, versus 18, 19 months ago, are you better off, and is our country better off? I always encourage people to think not just about themselves, but about our country. But unanimously, they say we're all much worse off. And you know, within a record amount of time, the current administration has made a real mess of our country.
They have.
And I hear it again and again from people that we have to get good people in there to fix the problem. And that's why I decided to run for office, Mike. So, I decided the country is in a big mess. Good people got to get off the couch and do something about it.
Well, I'm glad you're running. Now, what are the top 3 issues that people are telling you when you knock on their door? What do they want from their congressman that they're not getting from Lois Frankel?
So overwhelmingly, it's economic issues, and the people either talk about the economy, the recession, or gas prices, or food prices, or inflation, the big one. But they're all related issues. By far, that's 50% of what people want to talk about. And I tell them, you know, I saw it coming. I predicted it a year and a half ago. And I'm not claiming to be a genius of any sort. There were plenty of economists at the time who realized that these inflationary policies of the administration were going to bring about this problem. And sure enough, here it is. And the good news is I saw it coming, but I also know how to fix it. And I think the answer is pretty simple. Stop doing the dumb things that got us here.
Right,
and if you go to my website, you'll see I have a 4-part plan to address inflation. I'll give you the short version, if I may, Mike.
Absolutely.
Number 1, we have to stop the deficit spending, and I'm in favor of a balanced budget amendment. Number 2, we must never again pay people to stay home and not work. Number 3, we need to deregulate the energy industry. Get gasoline back to $2 a gallon, just like it was about a year and a half ago.
Exactly.
And the final thing, the Federal Reserve, it's broken, it needs a full makeover. So that's the short version. If anyone wants to read the long version, please go to my website. You can get there by typing in danforusa.com.
And you hit the nail on the head. I agree with everything you said. What what people don't see or are starting to see is the rent inflation. I literally got priced out of my house, and I never saw it coming. For 8.5 years, I was always negotiating 1-2 year leases and never an issue. I call, they will not even talk to me. They're not going to tell me what the rent's going to be until 60 days before I leave. So I had to go out and buy a house 2.5 hours away that I could afford, because interest rates are starting to go up through the roof. Prices have soared, and now it's become unaffordable. And this is all because of Joe Biden's policies.
Well, Joe Biden's policies, but we also have to blame the people who enabled him, people like Lois Frankel, the incumbent. You know, she's voted with him literally 100% of the time, and she deserves the blame at least as much as he does. And it's unfortunate that rent has gone up, but it was only a matter of time. I mean, when energy prices go up, that's more than just what you pay at the gas pump. That makes its way into everything you buy.
Everything.
And you know, just the people say that, and that's one of the many reasons food prices are going up, because that food has to be produced, it has to be transported multiple times, and then the workers who work there, they have to fill their gas pumps, so their wages are going to have to go up. It's just a terrible vicious spiral you get when things like energy prices go up, and then ultimately makes its way into rents going up, and it's a very unfortunate thing, Mike.
It is, and you know, Lois is one of the most prolific spenders in Washington. I mean, so she's partly to blame here, because she votes for everything that's going to cost the taxpayer money, without regard for who's going to pay for it later on down the road. And that's part of the problem here. What we're seeing is they keep pushing these bills, like this new bill they call the anti-inflation, which is a joke, of course. 87,000 new IRS agents to collect more money from the poor middle guy. Now they're going to say 400,000 and above, but there's no way that's going to end up being true. There's too many agents. They're going to go after the mom and pops, the small companies, and they're going to look to squeeze people, which is just going to make everything worse here in the country. We were never set up to have a big IRS that's going to be auditing everybody, looking into everybody's financials, and just causing the people a lot of stress, grief, and aggravation.
Well, you've touched on a lot of issues, Mike. There is something worse than a tax and spend liberal. You know what that is?
What?
It's a borrow and spend liberal.
Yeah.
Because the borrow and spend liberal spends today, borrows the money, and sticks to the next generation with it. And that's what we have right now running our government in Washington. We are literally spending our country into bankruptcy. The national debt is at $30.5 trillion, and it's going to keep getting worse and worse. And that's one of the reasons why I'm in favor of a balanced budget amendment to restore some fiscal discipline. You know, another thing people don't realize is that money doesn't just get printed in the basement of the White House.
Right.
Every day the government has to go into the bond markets and borrow in the treasury markets to fund the government. Who are the two? Do you know, Mike? Do you know who the two biggest sources are of that money? It's
China and Japan.
Exactly. So literally, we every week go into the government, into the bond markets, and borrow money from China to make the payroll for our military. Mike, that's so crazy. I couldn't make it up if I tried, but that's literally what's happening. So we have to put an end to that, because there could someday be a day when that's dried up, or worse yet, when terms start to come with it, or control starts to come with it. So we need to get our financial house in order and get it back under control. The other point you bring up, the IRS agents, is extremely troubling. And I know when you're talking with the other guests here, you were talking about what are they really going to do. They're not going to go after the rich. Everyone says stick it to the rich.
Right.
The rich, they have the money, the resources, and know-how to hold them up for years. They're going to go for the easy pickings, which is typically small businesses and people making well under $400,000 a year. Plus, let me tell you another thing. Those 87,000 agents, do you think a single one of them is going to be a conservative? Every single one is going to be vetted on being a Democrat. And that's who's going to be running around, and who do you think they're going to be targeting? It's very troubling. And why do they need so much armament, too? That's also very troubling. When I get to Congress, Mike, one of the first things I'm going to do is introduce bills to cut off the spending for that. People always ask me, how are you going to get stuff done?
Right.
And the answer is one of the best ways to motivate people to do something, cut off their money.
Right.
It works with children when you cut off their allowance, and frankly, same mentality in dealing with Washington bureaucrats. Cutting off their money is a powerful way to influence their behavior.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't, what's going to happen when interest rates go to 9, 10%? Our debt is unsustainable. At that point, the interest on the debt is going to be more than the government's bringing in on a yearly basis.
Oh, it's frightening, Mike, and that's why I keep saying we're spending. I mean, 10 years ago, when the national debt was at about 9 or 10 trillion, I said we're spending our
Right.
country into bankruptcy. And interestingly, when Obama took over as president in '08, I think the national debt was around $9 trillion. He
Right.
said that was irresponsible.
Right.
Well, guess what? He was one of the people that made it
ran it-
worse,
right,
and
he
now
did. Ran it to 20.
his party, which he's still quite active in, has brought it up over $30 trillion, and doesn't think there's anything wrong with that. We have to
Right.
stop that before it gets out of control, and before we find ourselves where we can't get the money to run the government, or the money comes with strings attached that we don't want.
Right, that's true. I remember when I was in college, I think it was 79, Carter was president, and it was the first time we went over $1 trillion in debt. And I was reading this article about how we're going to survive with over $1 trillion in debt. And now we're 30 times that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just almost impossible to get out of.
Yeah.
That's why we need people like you in Congress to bring fiscal responsibility to this government before it's too late.
Absolutely. And Mike, when I talk about finance and economics, I'm not reading off a teleprompter or winging it or
Right.
making it up
Right.
like Joe Biden does. What I'm talking about is the top topics I've lived with every day of my life for 40 years. It dates back to when I was in college, actually 42 years ago when I started college, and then all throughout a successful career in finance. So when I'm talking about these topics, I'm drawing on real world experience. I've seen what works. I'm confident we can fix this problem. You just have to get good people like who think the same way you and I do in
Right,
there
absolutely.
To fix the problem.
And you certainly have the background. I mean, you graduated from Amherst College, and then you got your master's degree from Wharton, right?
Yeah, I earned my MBA in finance from Wharton.
Right.
Same school President Trump went to.
Right, and Wharton is one of the best known schools for finance.
Well, we like to say Wharton wrote the book on
Right,
finance,
exactly.
but perhaps
There
is
you
a
go.
bit
That's even
grandiose
better,
and a bit
right.
of an exaggeration.
Right,
But it's the reason I chose that school over other very good schools like Stanford or Harvard that I could have gone
Right.
to is I knew I wanted to major in finance, and I knew that's where I would get the best finance education.
I mean, so to even get into that school, you have to be exceedingly bright. I mean, they only take a small percentage of people that apply. So you had to do very well at Amherst College, and you have to be definitely on the ball. You had to probably hit those what are those tests you have to
GMAT.
take, the GMATs, right, out of the park to get in.
Well, Mike, I always was a good student, but it was a
Right.
mixture of being a good student and a hard worker. I was always
Yes.
I wasn't always the smartest student in every room, but I was always the hardest working one in every room, and that's where I got where I am. But as you know, I didn't start out as someone who went to Wharton. In fact, my father was a union carpenter with an 8th grade
Right.
education, and my mother was a homemaker with a 10th grade education. I started working as a carpenter when I was 16, and that's how I helped put myself through college and graduate school. So I've really worked my way up and really lived the American dream. And one of the many reasons I'm running is I feel that American dream is slipping away for other people like me. In fact, I'm not sure guys like me who are 40 years younger will have the same kind of opportunities I have. I'd like to preserve that. But another reason I bring this up is I've had such a diverse range of experiences. People often ask me, so what differentiates you from other candidates?
Right.
And I say I've had an incredible diverse range of experiences. I've been a father, a husband, a church leader, a community leader. I was a Little League baseball coach, which was
Right.
always 8 seasons without a losing record.
Right.
I've been a blue-collar worker, a white-collar worker. I was president of a company that I co-founded. I was a chief financial officer. I was a managing director, a portfolio manager. I've held more leadership positions than the other candidates combined. I've had success with every one of them. But just importantly, I've had such a diverse range of life experiences that I think also makes me well qualified to be a member of Congress.
Yeah, I mean, your tenacity is what's needed also in Congress. We need somebody that's going to sit and tackle the problem, take the time it needs, figure it out. You're certainly smart enough to get that done. And we need a conservative who's going to bring fiscal responsibility back to this country. We have too many lawyers up there who don't have any understanding about economics, which is one of the reasons we're sitting in $30 trillion worth of debt. They're not paying attention to it. All they're thinking about is how they're going to get reelected. I mean, and that's another issue we should talk about is term limits. I mean, I'm a firm believer in term limits because when you have people that are there for 30 years, 40 years, they're entrenched politicians, and their interests, I mean, aren't the people's anymore. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi. The Pelosi's have made themselves tens of millions of dollars by her being in Congress. a matter of fact, I followed Paul Pelosi's stock pick and did very well with it, okay?
Oh.
Because went up 20%. Because if he's going to put $2 million into something, is it going to go down? Probably not. Why? Because he has knowledge and information based on what his wife's telling him is going to happen.
It's just incredible. You know, one thing that's been true for a long time, 4 of the 10 richest zip codes in our country in the Washington suburbs, that it's not because rich people are moving there, it's because your tax money is going there. And one of the things that we need to do is term limits. That's one of the things I signed on for early on. But I actually took it a further step than most people do. I did sign the term limits pledge, but all that says in it is that you will vote to enact term limits, which would be 3 terms for a congressman.
Yes.
From day one, I vowed that I will not only vote for that, but whether or not it becomes law, that's what I will do. I vow not to serve more than 3 terms. And people say, why would you do that? And I said, you know what? It actually frees me to go in there and get stuff done. Too many people go to Washington with the notion of, oh, I'll go there for 1 term, I'll get elected a 2nd time, I'll kind of learn the ropes, get to know people, then maybe 7, 8, 9 years from now, I'll do something. And I say, no, from day one, I'm going to go in there, stir things up because they need to be stirred up.
I agree.
And the fact that I'm not trying to get elected 20 times, I feel gives me the freedom to do the right thing for the people, Mike.
And you know what? If I ever run for Congress again, I'm going to stick to that 3-term limit myself because I'm on board 100%. That'll also make me like 70 years old by the time it's all over, but which is fine. I mean, we don't want to get too senile over there. But no, I agree with you. And that's what has to happen. I don't know why when they realized back in the Eisenhower years that having somebody in office as long as they had FDR was problematic to the country. And they initiated presidential term limits, but they never went for Senate and congressional term limits, which was a shame because if it was done then, I don't think we'd be in the mess that we are right now.
Oh, I think they could have even pushed it through then. It's disappointing they didn't.
Right.
And I agree. We would, what we'd get back to is a government by the people. I mean, the way to get government by the people is to have people in the government as opposed to career politicians.
Absolutely.
And it always drives me crazy when I see politicians just shopping around. Oh, I don't know if this year, in fact, Val Deming is a good example.
Yes.
She was flip-flopping between whether she wanted to run for governor or senator. And I say, well, wow, that's a lot of conviction you have for what you're running for. She wants a job. She wants a prestigious elected job.
Does.
She didn't have a passion to be a senator or a passion to be governor. She had a passion to be elected to something.
Right. Now, do you know the backstory on her?
She was a police chief.
She was a police chief.
Hardly anymore.
Well, what happened was she sold her gun, and it was used in a violent crime. And her husband was the sheriff, so he never prosecuted her.
Wasn't that great?
So she stepped down, became a congresswoman. Now she's running for Senate, but she was making money selling seized guns that the police would seize, as well as her own duty weapon.
I didn't know that about the selling guns. Doesn't surprise me. It's one of the things that gets people so disappointed in politics. All too often you see people there, they get into power, and the first thing they do, they abuse their power.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Dan, we have 2 minutes left on the show. I want you to tell the people why you were the best choice and what you will do for them.
Sure. So I've covered a lot of those topics,
You
truthfully.
have, absolutely.
I've got a very strong background in finance, and I think financial issues are the key things that people are looking for. And as I mentioned earlier, when I talk about finance and economics, I'm not winging it or making it up or reading off a teleprompter. I'm drawing on 40 years of living and breathing those topics, every single day. I saw these problems coming, and I know what to do to fix them. But there's so many other problems that are facing our country, and you can rest assured that I'm listening to you, and that's one of the things I got out of going door to door for all those hundreds of hours and nearly 4,000 doors that I knocked on. So it's on top of the economic issues, people are quite concerned about election integrity. I know you spoke about it at length with some of the other guests here. That's also an important topic for me. But one thing we haven't talked about at all is border security. You can rest assured when I get in there, I will do everything possible to seal our borders because so much bad stuff is coming across them.
Oh, yes.
They want you to think these are just ordinary families like you and me coming over the border wanting to live the American dream, and I'm sure that's true of countless people coming across, but a lot of bad stuff is coming across too. Gangs, criminals, drugs, fentanyl. I mean, we've had a fentanyl and other drug problem like we've never had before.
No, that's
so it's very important that we seal the borders. But you can count on me. I'm not going there to be a career politician. You can count on me to fight for the people of this district.
I just want to say that tomorrow's election day. It's so important that we elect somebody that can actually turn this seat. You are the only person that has the character, the intelligence, the financial background, the money to defeat Lois Frankel. So when you go to vote tomorrow, I want you to consider all those factors, because otherwise you're throwing away your vote. There's some other really good people in that race, but without the money, without the ability, without the financial background that you have, we're not going to be able to unseat Lois Frankel and turn back this country to where we need to be financially. With a $30 trillion debt, we need somebody like you there that has the ability. You turned around churches that were losing money. You know finances. You went to the best school for finances in the country. Wharton is known to be one of the best schools there is. So you have the intellect, you have the ability, you have what it takes. And if we're going to elect people here in Florida that are going to win, we have to vote and support somebody like Dan. So that's why I'm behind you, and I wish you the best tomorrow on Election Day. Vote Dan Franzese. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for watching the Political Power Hour with your host, Michael Vilardi. If you would like to see a particular candidate on our show, please email us at michaelvilardi@gmail.com. That's one L in Vilardi. We will see you next week.
If your family is suffering from inflation and high costs caused by Lois Frankel's reckless policies, Republican Dan Franzese is clearly your best choice for Congress. Dan is a successful businessman who understands finance and economics. He's not a politician. Dan grew up blue collar and knows how tough inflation is on working families. Dan Franzese will go to Washington and fight the liberals who are killing us with inflation. Dan Franzese for Congress.
I'm Dan Franzese, and I approve this message.
Text alert! Text alert!
I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Vilardi on the phone and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Vilardi, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com.